And our primary night coverage continues now. We're joined by political reporter Marcia Kramer and law professor J.C. Polanco. Let's talk endorsements. Welcome to both of you. Zoran Mamdani, he was this grassroots candidate who built a groundswell of support around him. And now he's picked up some major names in the Democratic Party, AOC, Bernie Sanders. Is that going to impact how he does tonight? What do you think?
Well, I think that what it does is it energizes his base. The question is it going to turn off some moderate voters who think that it's too much liberalism?
Yeah, and JC, I mean, what do you think? Go ahead.
Look, I think that you're right, Marcia. It's energizing the base of that part of the party. I think this is a battle for the soul of the Democratic Party in New York City. Is the soul of the party a socialist one, or is it more progressive, pragmatic, mainstream,
or moderate.
Moderate,
yeah. You know, or moderate, right? And it seems as if there's a lot of energy on that side of the fence, on the side of the socialists. We see them with those young students of mine that are all excited about this guy. And a lot of it has to do, I think, with the fact that young folks don't understand taxes too much.
Yeah.
Well, I have to laugh. You talk about endorsements. They say Mike Bloomberg endorsed Cuomo. Well, he sure as hell not endorsing Zoran Mamdani, okay? So what does that matter, really, endorsements on a Cuomo level? We know the guy. We don't need someone to endorse him if you know the guy.
Yeah, but you need someone to come in and say, you trust me, like Mike Bloomberg could say to New York City voters, you trust me, right? Well, trust me in supporting this guy right here, Andrew Cuomo.
But wait a second. It means something else. It means dollars and cents, because when Mike Bloomberg endorsed Andrew Cuomo, he also contributed $5 million to his super PAC, which enabled them to go on the air with commercial after commercial after commercial. So he put his money where his mouth was.
Well, he had more ad dollars spent on him than all the other candidates combined.
In fact, it made this race the third most expensive race in this election cycle, behind New Jersey gubernatorial primary, which was $90 million. This was $36 million, and also the race for the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the New York Times did not endorse a candidate. They often do, but they did have this long explainer about the race. Does that have an impact? Do the Times have an impact anymore?
Well, with their voters it did, but there was one thing that really hurt Mamdani, where it said he doesn't deserve to be on the ballot. Don't rank him at all. And that was a blow to Mamdani. On the other hand, it didn't like any of the candidates very much. It had nice things to say about Lander and grudgingly said some nice things about Cuomo.
But are the same elite people who are saying we want the young socialists sort of poo-pooing the New York Times? What do you think?
Well, they may. That's the only thing they can do. They can't run with it. Boy, they would have loved to have the New York Times endorsement, right? But they didn't get it. And I think the Times was doing something that a lot of folks are asking. Hey, to be the CEO of New York City, you need some experience. And the New York Times and so many other people are asking, where is this guy coming from? I mean, what kind of job credentials do you have to lead the city of New York?
That's the reason why the New York Times said that he shouldn't be on the ballot, because they questioned the fact that he only had 4 years as an assemblyman and had passed 3 bills in the entire time he was in the assembly. And of course, Cuomo, grudgingly, they had to point out, had been had a lot
been around a while.
Been around a while with a lot of things that he did.
What about on the national level? I mean, I think everybody's watching this race and saying, is this some sort of, microcosm of what could happen nationally? Does that sound reasonable, or is that just, hey, New York is always a little different?
No, New York is the capital city of the world. And whoever wins the mayoralty of New York City is going to be a national star immediately. I think that the Republicans across the country want nothing more than a socialist to get elected in New York City. It would guarantee the Republicans the midterm elections, and it would make a socialist mayor the boogeyman.
But see, as you said earlier, this is a battle for the soul and heart of the Democratic Party. And the Democrats, having been blown off by the fact that Donald Trump won, are trying to figure out who they are and what they are.
Yeah.
And this could set the pace for them, like who they are and what they are. And if Mamdani wins, I think that they'll go much more to the left. But if he doesn't, it may come right down to the center.
All right, Marcia Kramer, J.C. Polanco, thank you so much indeed. You can tell the gang is all here again.
Yes, we are. Yes. Back with political reporter Marcia Kramer and political consultant O'Brien Murray. O'Brien, thanks for joining us again. So what are the main things you think are bringing the voters to the polls today? We know primary elections don't bring as many voters, but they care about certain issues this time.
Well, I think that first of all, they're looking for somebody who can stand up to Donald Trump in Washington. They think that there's going to be cuts made, and they need somebody who's going to stand up. But I think that there's also at play the idea of the past versus the future. And Mamdani is trying to present himself as the future of the Democratic Party, and Andrew Cuomo is the moderate with experience.
If Mamdani's the future of the Democratic Party, the Republicans across this country will have a field day after this at this point. What he's really doing is energizing his base. He's energizing the progressive wing of the party, turning them out. But Andrew Cuomo has also presented we love the Democrats, the moderate Democrats, of who we had in the past, and the message we had in the past, not where this party has been going. That was shown by the Harris campaign and what happened last year at this point. So I think the energy he presents for Mamdani is great, but it's not enough for the country or the city at this point.
Let's talk about ranked choice voting, because not just about how the candidates are handling. I never hear people say, wow, this is great, and I understand this. They always say, well, what is this ranked choice voting? What is, at some point, I think the voters are going to say, we used to have the runoffs, right? And the runoffs cost money. But this is a different way of doing it. But are we sure that the voters are comfortable with this?
The whole system needs to be fixed. Remember, the runoffs were also in September issue. Bill de Blasio almost had a runoff, but he got Thompson out of the race before the recount in 2013. So when you look at the way it's gone, that plus the matching funds, when you have so many candidates that qualify for the max amount of money, the voters really can't discern a difference.
See, here, this is just in, though. See, you think that everybody's going into the voting booth and ranking 5 people. That's actually not true. Right. A lot of people are bullet voters. They go in and they pick one candidate. I talked to somebody in our newsroom who said, I'm only voting for the person I think is the best person, and that's it. And I just talked to another person in the newsroom who said he only ranked 3 people instead of 5. So I don't think everybody's ranking everybody 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
When I was a kid, my dad got elected to the school board on bullet voting, but that's when there's 3 people running pick 2. That's one of the misnomers in the way it works, and the voters aren't educated because the city hasn't spent the money to educate people.
All right, well, speaking about the bullet voters, what about these people who say don't rank Cuomo at all on the far, far left? Is that going to have an impact on his numbers?
I think that remains to be seen, and clearly the Working Families Party hope that it works. But remember, on the other side of the coin of don't rank Cuomo is the New York Times that said don't put Mamdani on the ballot at all, so you have to see which is playing out. But what we have to ask is this. With ranked choice voting not going to be tallied until next week, how many points does each candidate have to get tonight to make it look like they're going to actually win in a week? And I think when it comes to Cuomo, if he wins by 8 to 10 points, that makes it really difficult for Mamdani to win. On the other hand, if Cuomo only wins by 5 or less, that gives Mamdani a chance to really prevail.
If we were in Vegas, I'd take the over at 5 or over.
5 or
that's
over.
What I'd be doing at this point. I think 5 is a magic number, Marcia. I think the big thing too is the turnout. The Board of Elections done a great job with showing how many voters right now. And at about 7:30 or so tonight, we had as many voters today, as we had a year ago with an hour and a half left to still vote. So everyone out there going out to vote is going to make a difference in this election.
But the turnout is very big in the Bronx. Who does that help?
That helps
Andrew Cuomo,
yeah. And don't forget, with ranked choice voting, Cuomo had no one to team up with. Even today, he was asked who else did he vote for. He didn't even mention Tilson, who was...
Excuse me, he bullet voted. I'm willing to bet any money on
That's exactly
but Eric Adams said he voted for himself 6 times.
That's right. Yeah, he wrote himself in. That's great.
Cuomo, and Cuomo, because then it would help him at every turn.
The reality is voting for Cuomo or Mamdani didn't matter who your number 2 was, because those would be the next 2 up top. It's Lander and everyone else down below. I think tonight also watch Adrienne Adams see what she did. I thought she was going to sneak into 3 and Lander was going to come down to 4. And I think Lander's really turned around and played. He's got also the advantage of ranked choice voting from 4 years ago for the comptroller's race. He used that to his advantage with Mamdani.
Don't you think the interesting thing in the last polls that have happened in the last, say, day or so is the fact that Adrienne Adams is coming in 3rd in all the polls, and Lander, who thought he was going to get a bump by getting arrested, is coming in 4th. What's with that?
I think it was nothing more than a cheap campaign stunt, Marcia, and I've said that since the moment. I was on the phone with another reporter the moment it was actually happening. And I was like, Marcia, what were you doing that day? They didn't tell you, they didn't give you the press release saying I'm getting arrested today?
I was there waiting for it.
Exactly. I mean, but that's what they did. He'd been there before to get arrested. It was a campaign stunt. But I will tell you, he has been drafting off Mamdani in this final week, and I think that was more important for him than the ICE arrest. But with Andrew Cuomo, he had nobody he could ever pair up with once Adams dropped out. He didn't have to pair up and campaign. But the opportunity for the voter to go in and vote for Adams and Cuomo number 2, or vice versa, disappeared when Eric Adams pulled himself out of this election.
Him against the world, really. That's what it was. It was nobody to team up with.
Well, we'll see if that works, right?
It may very well work tonight.
And a Rose Garden strategy, and I said this to Marcia on the couch over here when we've been on previous weeks, he was not nice to the press. The press are beasts in a good way and bad way. But you all have
Excuse
to be
me,
fed.
do not call me a beast.
I said
it,
good,
actually.
Marcia. I said good. But
This is Marcia Kramer here.
They have to be fed.
Excuse me.
They have to be fed.
I'm not a beast, and he didn't treat me as a beast.
That's okay, but they have to.
You're his favorite beast.
Yes.
I was a semi-beast.
Oh,
But
okay.
you're so good at your job.
Oh,
That's
he's
the
coming
point.
back now.
No
OB,
reporters
good
are-
play.
No reporters are your friends, but you
You're
have
just
to
trying to get
feed
him on
them.
good side.
Well
of the
played.
All right.
Well played, OB.
O'Brien
Nice
and
job.
Marcia, thank
All
you
right,
so
great
much
job,
for the
guys.
insight. And CBS News New York has you covered on Election Day and beyond. We'll be bringing you updates on the air and streaming on CBS News New York.